Good morning. No editor on this video. It's just going to be me and you hanging out. Let's talk about patch 7.35b. But first, let me update the guides now. Here we go. All right, real quick, let's talk about patch 7.35b. I think it's pretty straightforward for most of us who've been playing this patch, who've been gaining MMR by either spamming Solar Crest or spamming Leshrac and Bloodstone. Well, unfortunately, both of those opportunities have now been lost forever into the void, never to be reconsidered again. I understand for those who watched my 7.35 impressions video that I had thought Solar Crest was kind of weak. My perspective was basically the understanding that Solar Crest didn't give so much value to yourself when you cast it on evidently yourself. As you can see, that's not true. You could cast it on yourself with incredible attack speed, incredible shield, and an incredible easy component building process with extra mana, energy booster coming from one of those components stemming from Pavis that leads to Solar Crest. So for this patch, I think 7.35b is one of the final patches before Christmas break. I just spent 35-40 hours updating all my guides. I'm not going to break my back doing this patch impressions video, adding any additional editing that needs to be said. That said, let's go through the patch real quick because I know you guys don't want me to waste any time. Let's go through item updates. Bloodstone no longer restores mana. This pretty much, I wouldn't say kills Bloodstone, but you can definitely view Bloodstone as kind of the way Solar Crest was intended to play, where half its value has been cut out. Fortunately / unfortunately, only one hero, as far as I know, benefited from Bloodstone, and his name was Leshrac. I'm trying to think offhand of any other hero that used Bloodstone as a core item, and honestly, I couldn't. I think Zeus now builds Bloodstone with his new right-click build, and you guys will see that when I push out the patch update for 7.35b. That said, yeah, I think only Leshrac was the only hero that built Bloodstone. Pudge now builds Bloodstone as an extension items in the late game, now that he plays as a position 3. That said, I don't really think too many casualties were had with Bloodstone's death. To be honest, the AoE increase for Bloodstone makes it pretty appealing for a lot of heroes, although I think losing its mana regen means that your deviation to build Bloodstone, especially when you don't have the disassembly appeal that you've had previously, makes it a little bit harder to go for Bloodstone right off the bat, at least as a core item. Even late game extension item Bloodstone as a 6 slot, it's kind of demanding. That said, I think yeah, a lot of AoE heroes might be considering. I know Underlord would be actually pretty interesting to have a Bloodstone, in my personal opinion. That's one of the first heroes I thought of when I saw Bloodstone. Right, two of his best abilities, two of his only active abilities, besides his ultimate, Pit of Malice, and I don't know, Burning Rain. I can't remember what it's called. Those are big AoE abilities that really benefit from Bloodstone's increase in AoE impact. All right, moving on. Eternal Shroud. Eternal Shroud endurance stack duration decreased from 8 to 6. This is just something that just lasted just way too long for anyone who built Eternal Shroud. I know a big popular one was Eternal Shroud on Death Prophet, Eternal Shroud on Leshrac was another one, and Eternal Shroud on Medusa. The Eternal Shroud having its duration reduced means that it won't be as sustaining as long as possible. Eternal Shroud has definitely come back onto the board. I'm curious to see if we'll see maybe finally Centaur pick it up. I know Pudge now pause 3 picks up Eternal Shroud, so interesting change. Helm of the Iron Will, armor bonus decreased from 6 to 5, health regen decreased from 5 to 4. So if you don't know anything about Helm of the Iron Will, it builds into Veil of Discord, which built into Shiva's Guard, which is, in my opinion, one of the strongest items in 7.35. I valued Shiva's Guard much higher than I valued Solar Crest. Even in retrospect, knowing how strong Solar Crest is, I still value Shiva's Guard perpetually and universally better as a high impact, high value item. The change to Helm of Iron Will for health regen bonus decrease from 5 to 4 is just because it cost approximately the same. Obviously, there's like 100 plus gold difference between Ring of Health and Helm of the Iron Will, but obviously you get a ton of value out of Helm of the Iron Will versus the Ring of Health. The Ring of Health gives you 5.5, 4.5, 5.5 health regen, or I think it's 4.5 health regen for Ring of Health, and Helm of the Iron Will was 5, so you get 0.5 more health regen, which is huge in the laning stage. And then you had bonus armor on top of that. If anyone who plays Lycan or Beastmaster, your first item is Helm of the Iron Will because it builds beautifully into Helm of the Dominator, into Helm of the Overlord. So having Helm of the Iron Will be a little bit weaker, once again, just absolutely breaks the heart of the few Beastmaster players left playing and Lycan players playing. But it was a necessary change. It just gave too much value, and now it's diversification into 2 different great items, Helm of the Dominator or Veil of Discord. It makes it all the more justified to lower its value. Kaya Sanji spell amplification bonus decreased from 16 to 12%. This is just a slight adjustment. Right now, if you play Zeus, this is kind of a right-click build. He goes Kaya Yasha into Shard, into Manta style. I know, crazy. So if you notice here, they didn't decrease that. So, oh, sorry, scratch that. They did decrease it. So it kind of makes sense for a lot of spell heroes who were building Kaya-based items, such as Kaya Sanji, such as Kayasha, or the also rare. What's the third one? I don't remember, but Ethereal Blade is no longer around. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of heroes built Kaya Sanji. To have it nerfed is justified. It's pretty understanding, especially with the diverse path that a lot of right-click or carry-based spellcasters are going. Mage Slayer as well. The spell damage debuff increased from 35 to 40%. It's a really nice change. It's also to help kind of counter spell casting meta. I know Batrider used to build it previously with the Solar Crest. I know Monkey King 4, very rare, I know, builds it. I think Viper is starting to pick it up as well. So definitely keep your heads up on Mage Slayer being a more prominent item than you actually give it credit for. I know a lot of people kind of dismissed it when it was no longer part of Bloodthorn, but it's actually quite good compared to what people believe. Meta style, attack speed bonus increased from 12 to 15. Okay, Meteor Hammer. Recipe cost decreased from 800 to 600. I think, honestly, that Meteor Hammer as an item is just not that great. That's the third item. I remember now. That's the third item. Kaya can build into Meteor Hammer. And honestly, Meteor Hammer is such a niche item. It's an item for lineups with spellcasters that just have no push. That's basically the takeaway with Meteor Hammer. Honestly, I wouldn't even think about it. PUBG's armor bonus decreased from 3 to 2. Health bonus decreased from 175 to 150. Just all adjustments for Solar Crest. Sanya Yasha, nothing to talk about there. Shiva's Guard. This is what I talk about. It's very strong. I mean, Shiva's Guard was literally 20 armor in the most convenient path ever. Shiva's Guard literally gave you additional armor, I think, stemming from the Veil of Discord build with plate mail into Shiva's Guard. Not only is Shiva's Guard just incredibly easy to build, it's more universally applicable. It applies 2 very damaging effects, the Veil of Discord amplification, as well as as always, Shiva's Guard with the slow and extra damage from its ability. To adjust its armor bonus decrease from 20 to 16 is completely understandable and standard. All attribute bonuses decrease from 8 to 6 makes it just a little less inherently desirable, I guess is the word I would use for Shiva's Guard. All these decreases are just ways to avoid kind of making Shiva's Guard too strong of an item. I'm not going to blow my time on Shiva's Guard. I think the changes here doesn't make it all the less appealing, just makes it all the more well-rounded in terms of the meta we're coming into, where a lot of people are picking up Shiva's Guard. I think everyone and their mother is looking at Shiva's Guard as a really hot item, especially for heroes that like to jump into fight. Centaur, Queen of Pain, two names right off the bat. Solar Crest decreased armor bonus from 6 to 4. All attribute bonus decreased from 6 to 4. All standard. Shine mana cost increased from 0 to 100. This is actually pretty huge. I can't imagine anyone really wanting to build Solar Crest now with 100 mana cost. I mean, 0, it didn't make sense because it was 0 mana cost for 8 seconds, and then the cooldown was 16 seconds. So there was about 8 seconds where it was just going unused, or where it was on cooldown and you couldn't use it, but it had no mana cost, so you just keep spamming every time it was up. And those kind of items are very dull to play with and against. to play with is because there should be no reason why Solar Crest should ever be off cooldown. And the second reasoning is that Solar Crest having no mana cost and absolutely no downside to it meant that the person who spammed Solar Crest the most essentially won, or essentially maximized their output, whether it came to farming on cams, came to harassment, came to going for a kill, came to saving their allies, etc. So Solar Crest having 100 mana cost, understandable. A bit too high in my opinion, considering how much they have decreased out of it. Still very good for support heroes that want to build it on their allies. But once again, it comes back to what we saw at 7.35 change, which was that Solar Crest losing half its value because it no longer reduces the armor it could be used offensively is a bit of a bummer. Definitely going to think this Solar Crest item is going to be buffed. I don't really like too much the direction I had initially interpreted in 7.35 video. Veil of Discord, armor decreased, just in line with Helm of the Iron Will. Vladimir's offering no longer has a 250G recipe. Cost has been reduced. Kind of appealing. Visage is going to now build a little more Vladimir. I think he was already building it, but it was pretty late game. I think Chen also will probably look into Vladimir's. And we might see Io build it. I'm late game. I'm not 100% sure. The fact that Vladimir's offering can be disassembled is appealing. Except I can't think of a hero that wants to build from the Buckler, from the Ring of Bazi, and from the Morbid Mask. The Blades of Attack you can build into Chrysalis, which is appealing. But when you look at the rest, Ring of Bazi, it's like Arcane Boots or Vladimir's Offering, and then Buckler is like, I mean, you could go Vladimir's Offering into Guardian Greaves. I think that would be the combo. I think that's the logic behind it as well, right? You can do Buckler, Ring of Bazi into Guardian Greaves, maybe build back into Vlad, and then you get a Chrysalis or a Falcon Blade. I don't know. I think half those components are pretty pointless. That's kind of the thing when it comes to disassembling. It's about 50% of the items that at least need to be used. Usually you would want it to be 100%. For Vanguard, it's something like, Pipe of Insight into Lotus Orb or Pipe of Insight to Heart was kind of the reasoning you would go Vanguard, for example. So interesting, you can be disassembled. I can't see the ramifications off the top of my head, but one off the bat we just saw was Guardian Greaves with Arcane Boots. So interesting. Very interesting. Yasha and Yasha Kaya, we talked about the spell amp decrease and all that. Okay, hero updates. Let's go. Abaddon, curse duration decreased from 4.5 to 4. DPS decreases. Basically, they're changing Curse of Avernus to be slightly weaker because Abaddon's apostasy, especially with Solar Crest, was incredibly overpowered. Was just absolutely horrific to just play against. The Solar Crest removal with Curse of Avernus being decreased, we might end up seeing him back as a POS 5. He was going to be POS 5 until 7.35 happened. Now he's back to POS 3. Maybe Radiance plays back on the board for him. Otherwise, it's going to be Echo Saber Manta style, I think, off the top of my head. Alchemist, just a slight change, no big deal. Beastmaster, cooldown decreased from 42:38, 34:30 to just 30 seconds. So what this is going to do for Beastmaster, I think for Call of the Wild Boar, is essentially justify an early level in it, or justify the early levels you get in it for Beastmaster. I think the current Beastmaster builds are max out Q, 1 point call with 1 point in his inner aura. I can't remember the name for Beastmaster. It's a thing called Inner Beast. So close. But yeah, so sometimes you might see an early level and early Inner Beast, and then one early level in Call of the Wild Boar, pre-level 6. Maybe you'll see 2 points in Call of the Wild Boar, or if you don't, well, 30-second Call of the Wild Boar means I think you can keep pretty much 2 boars up persistently, as far as I understand it. 60 seconds for some duration, so 2 boars, or even 3 boars now, right? Yeah, 30 seconds, and 1 dies. Yeah, so it's going to be pretty regularly routine for that. Pretty nice. Pretty nice change. Makes it a little more consistent to play with our friend Beastmaster, and more importantly, the boar. Just going to slightly increase my brightness. I bought a light. I bought a light. You can see my hand get shinier as I touch the artificial sun. Unfortunately, the Netherlands has terrible weather, so it'll go from gray to slightly darker gray to Holy shit, I can't believe there's a sun in the world. Bristleback damage threshold has been decreased, so more bristleback output will help it be a little more offensive. To be honest, bristleback is just not that popular. Nothing to talk about. Crystal Maiden, Clone Nonga has base magic resistance. That's just something they overlooked. Dark Willow base armor increased by 1, a little bit more survivability. Dazzle damage increased from 75, 95, 150, 135 to 85, 105, 125, 145. Slight adjustment, just because Dazzle as a whole has kind of been significantly weaker because the bad juju change. I don't see people really playing this hero outside of POS 5. Maybe it's still justifiable as a POS 3 or 2, but definitely a different play style. You might see Dazzle come back maybe with a Witchblade, with Shard, with that level 10 talent that increases his attack range using Poison Touch. Death Prophet was one of the big winners for this patch because Shiva's Guard and Solar Crest just gave her enormous mana, enormous survivability, enormous movement speed, and enormous slow potential to max out Spirit Siphon. Now the new Death Prophets, you can see a little bit more spamming Q, especially with Veil being one of her core items. As a POS 3, she builds Helm of the Iron Will for the survivability we talked about. And then now with the Veil of Discord and Silence, Veil of Discord and her Q, which makes it quite appealing. I should really learn these names. I'm surprised I don't. But in short, she just becomes very offensive in the lane. More importantly, she just loves the current meta. I think she's going to be still quite powerful with a proper momentum lineup. Duration rescale from 3.456 to 3.54, 4.55. We talked about the silence effect of now having a slow. I think the first level is 15%. You still get it, but you get it around 8, 9. I think after you max out that ability, I just forgot the name of Crypt Swarm. Spirit Siphon base restore time increased from 38 to 40. No big deal. Ag Shard field duration decreased from 1.2 to 1. Makes Shard all the less appealing to pick up. However, nobody was really buying Ag Shard until late in the game, so nobody cares. Elder Titan wake up damage threshold from 55 to 100. Jesus Christ. So Elder Titan's also another forgotten POS 5 hero. I thought with the Solar Crest we'd see him picked up a lot more. Nobody picked him up. Kind of surprised about that. That said, Elder Titan having a wake up damage threshold from 55 to 100 is literally insane because I think he literally does 100 on his initial stomp at level 1. 70, excuse me. And then now you can only wake him up after 100 damage. So literally 170 damage at level 1 with a stun from Echo Stomp. Oh, a sleep from Echo Stomp. That's pretty nutty. Wonder if it's going to bring back Elder Titan. I checked earlier already on the Dota 2 Pro Tracker if anybody's been playing him recently. I think I saw one game as a POS 3. So I think people are sleeping on Elder Titan. I think Elder Titan is quite strong. We'll have to see how it comes out. It's not great to play an offensive melee support hero right now. So POS 3 has a little bit more popularity, but it's the same as always, right? It's Acceptor into Echo Saber into Shard. Faces Void no longer procs on denies. Okay. Bonus damage decreased from 15, 20, 25, 30 to 10, 15, 20, 25. I'm surprised they're nerfing Faces Void, but honestly, his moment of shine has always been kind of later into the game after his Mjolnir. Mjolnir and Maelstrom have definitely been buffed because now it gives attack speed inherently through Gloves of Haste. So definitely understand they've reduced his time lock damage in conjunction with the fact that now you're outputting, or the likelihood that you'll output time lock throughout the different phases of the game with your Chronosphere has increased. Just because your attack speed has increased, that's the more likelihood you'll get time lock. Level 15 talent, time lock decreased from 50 to 40. That's just in line with everything else. Juggernaut mana cost decreased from 120, 110, 100 to 90 to just straight 100. So early game Blade Fury 100 mana cost is nice. Late game, obviously you would love to have it at 90 instead of 100. The damage per tick increased from 35, 40, 45, 50 to 45, 50, 55, 60. My personal opinion was that Juggernaut's Blade Fury was good. A lot of people felt like it was lackluster, especially early game. My view, and what I continue to argue, is that Blade Fury, although initially early game was meant to be about being able to slow, having a good support that slows, like a Crystal Maiden, classic combo. Having that slow and then having Blade Fury kill out people was great. I think the view is to make Blade Fury more of an appeal late game in conjunction of how your ag scales and how your attack speed scales with the variety of items that you build. Now Maelstrom Mjolnir with Manta style into maybe, say, a Butterfly or anything, or even a Bloodstone if you want. And then having that Blade Fury just continuously contribute that right click damage per tick based on your attack speed, rather than what was basically the Blade Fury position previously, which was early game Blade Fury is fantastic to, either flash armor camp, or most of the time it would be to kill someone, or as a way to escape or get out of some debuffs. And then late game, you would never use Blade Fury, because basically Blade Fury was slower and did less damage than you did if you just auto attacked and killed people properly with Omni Slash, Ag Shard, or Ag Scepter, excuse me, as well as just your normal attack. So now the view is, let's make Blade Fury more of an appeal and complement late game and less of a value early game. And I still think this is applicable here, albeit they want it to be a little bit stronger, so it's not completely pointless to pick up. Leshrac, we talked about Bloodstone completely killed on that hero. I think Eternal Shroud is going to be one of the more core items to pick up on this hero. That said, it means I think his mana pool is significantly weaker, so we'll see how that changes the hero. Split Earth cooldown increased from 9 to 11. You were maxing out. I think you were maxing out Split Earth 3rd. I think you put 2 points in Split Earth, and then you maxed out Lightning Storm into max Diabolic Edict. So the cooldown change is to make it so you can't spam it as hard in the lane, or to secure range creeps as much. Ag Shard radius increased per strike from 55, decreased from 55 to 45. So the issue with Split Earth with the Ag Shard was that you could have multiple in one fight. So when they decrease the radius, they don't want to remove the fact that you can have 2 in a fight. They want to remove the fact that 2 in a fight was oppressively massive. It was impossible. And if you timed it right, you could have like Split Earth, Split Earth, Split Earth, Split Earth. And it was just an absolute nightmare to deal with. So I do like the change they did. I do like the change they made here for sure. Lightning Storm attack still decreased from 50 to 20, 30, 40, 50. You were maxed out Lightning Storm anyway, so not a huge deal. It's just early game. It won't be as oppressively annoying. Lone Druid, nothing to talk about here. Lycan, they increased the damage from 20 to 23, 26, 29, 32, 34. They increased it a little bit more, basically 2 across the board. 1, so it's 2 in the front end and 2 on the back, in terms of min max. Is that what I'm reading? No. Earlier on it's 1, so 23 to 24, 29 to 30, and then the last 2 levels is 34 to 36, so plus 2. And basically the logic there is, simply put, Lycan does great damage to the wolves, but late game you ultimately put more emphasis on the fact that Lycan wanted to kill himself, but more importantly you put it more on the Howl doing its damage reduction as an appeal. I think you get 1 point in Howl at level pre-6, and then now with the Shard you're looking at plus 2 Howl armor reduction instead of plus 10 wolf damage. Now with the slight change, not only is it a little bit easier to last hit with some wolves, hopefully, but more importantly, maybe people will consider the level 10 talent to be the wolves here on the left, 10 wolves damage. Shapeshift, slight increased in Shapeshift, especially due to magic casters. I can understand the change to that. Medusa value is now calculated before Eternal Shroud's mana restoration. This made it so Medusa is just not this vicious circle of constantly living and getting a ton of mana, and thus not really costing any. Doesn't really cost anything to do Eternal Shroud. In fact, it makes you practically invulnerable. Hopefully this makes Eternal Shroud a little bit weaker, or more importantly, just stop being picked up from Medusa. Monkey King to talk about, Morphling nothing to talk about. Muerta Agadem Shard bonus spellification now applies retroactively. Really nice item, means you can pick up Agadem Shard whenever you want. You don't have to pick it up mid-game, which is what some people did, just to get a jump on the extra damage output you could do. Now that it applies retroactively, it helps balance out the fact that your Gunslinger doesn't always guarantee target on heroes. Obviously not a 1-for-1 change, but nice to see. Guardian Angel decreased base recharge time from 80 to 70, so 10-second decrease. I think they underestimated the fact that Omni-Knight's old ultimate was much less safer to pull off. I talked about it already, where basically had to play 2 different positions at the same time. You had to be in the middle of the fight to pop your ultimate, or you had to be way out in the fight to pop your purifications and repels on the teammates you want to do at the pause 5. Now Guardian Angel being a ranged ability, but can only be applied to 1/2 with Agadem Scepter, means that the cooldown for Guardian Angel should be lower to help compensate. Outward Destroyer, mana pool damage decreased from 13, 14, 15, 16 to 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay. understandable. Outward Destroyer is probably one of the best mid laners right now. Astral Imprisonment, they changed it so early game you do a lot less damage on Astral Imprisonment. It was pretty impressive in the lane. On top of that, Astral Imprisonment is still mainly used to help guarantee ranged last hits. Now you're gonna have to be a little bit more precise. Not really. Should be fine. Essence Flux, Aghanim Scepter cooldown increase from 60 to 80 seconds. I understand that already. If you ever played Outward Destroyer, there's basically 2 items you go after Witchblade and Blink and Hurricane Pike. It's either Sight Device or you went Aghanim Scepter. And now Parasma is kind of popular now too. Aghanim Scepter, if you play that ability, it is insane. I don't think there's a need to buy King Bar, although more people are buying it now. I don't think there's a need to buy Lincoln Sphere. If you went Aghanim Scepter with Outward Destroyer, you were pretty much unkillable. The shield that you would get from it was astronomical, and it popped every single time unless someone got Break. And who the fuck's buying Break against Outward Destroyer when you need to buy BKB to deal with his Arcane Orb? If you saw my VODs on Twitch, I played Outward Destroyer without Solar Crest. People were buying Solar Crest on Outward Destroyer. I said, fuck that, I'm not gonna do that. I bought Aghanim Scepter. I think I got dueled 5 times by Legion Commander, and I never died. It was literally unkillable because every time he would duel me, I had Aghanim Scepter pop on Essence Flux, and I would be unkillable. So I do like the change. It's very nice. Sanity's Eclipse, Mana Allergy no longer deals damage. I think this is also just a nice change as well for people who play against Outward Destroyer, because what would happen with Outward Destroyer is that you would build up your mana through Astral Imprisonment, and then you would pop down Sanity's Eclipse, and it would basically kill people. And if it didn't, the likelihood that you would kill them through the Mana Allergy was relatively medium to high. If not, you had enough for an Arcane Orb to pretty much wipe them out. So I think the Mana Allergy no longer dealing damage is just a necessary change. It was a little too guaranteed in terms of an ultimate, even if you didn't use any real Astral Imprisonment. So nice change. Nothing for Pangolier. Phantom Assassin, 2 big changes for Phantom Assassin. You don't get lifesteal anymore through Phantom Strike, and then Phantom Knives is no longer Break, right? Is that it? My mind is just fried since yesterday, since this week of like hours of work. Damage type changed from pure to physical. Now I remember. Okay, yeah. So the max health damage is helped to make it a little more proportionally valuable. Blur duration increased from 25 to 30. Okay, bonus attack speed. This is also to justify the fact that you no longer have lifesteal. And then the Stifling Dagger to help with a little bit more damage is just a proportional change to deal with spellcasters. Now as Phantom Assassin, you can deal a little more damage and feel almost as strong as the great spellcasters of this era. Ripik, nothing to talk about. Spear Breaker, Phylactery Conda now procs on impact rather than on cast. This was just a mean build. People were building Phylactery and Conda, and then they were building like Divine Rapier, and you could just basically cast it on someone and they'd be gone, right? There was nothing you can do. So really like that change. Nice little effect there. Sven, strength bonus increase from 2468 to 36912. Okay, sticky bomb radius 250 to 300, 350, and explosion radius 300 to 350. So now they make it a little bit harder to land sticky bomb, but they make it easier. They make it more likely to deal damage around wherever sticky bomb lands. Just a one balance end instead of how easy it is to land it. Now it's a little bit harder, and how easy it is to, or how hard it was to deal more than 1% damage with sticky bomb is now a little bit easier. Templar Assassin, side range increased from 550 to 600. I think with Templar Assassin, the range has always been just a real difficulty, even with Dragonlance. I like the 50 change across the board. It's really nice scale. Mana cost decreased from 90 to 85. This makes it so it's a little bit easier to lane with. Terrorblade, nothing to talk about there. Timbersaw. Timbersaw is also a really strong hero that really came out on top in this patch, especially with Eternal Shroud and Veil of Discord being quite powerful. The only big question was the skill build for Timbersaw. You weren't really sure how you wanted to fit that in. Was it 2 points reactive armor, 2 points whirling death? Was it 1 point reactive armor, 2 points reactive armor, and 1 whirling death? Was it max timber chain post 6, mid 6? I think this helps give it a little more streamlined in terms of understanding of how to level the hero out. With whirling death now having a scaling mana cost, and now there's more of a justification to max it out, or at least get 2 points in it. And then reactive armor having its bonus armor decrease means there's more push for it to to have its levels involve pre-6, assuming you're dealing with mostly physical heroes, as Timber saw. Tiny avalanche damage increased. This to help it kind of nuke down a lot of heroes, even though it's a spell casting era, or rather it's an intelligence carry kind of meta, at least we're assuming. There were still the issues of 7.34 where health as a whole across the board has been increased, and Tiny didn't really scale up in that regard, especially as a pause 4 or even as a nuking pause 2 tempo setting hero. So Avalanche having its damage increase is very nice. It's not that huge of a change, but it's nice. More on the end game than the early game, right? 75 to 80 is 5, and then 300 to 320 is plus 20. Toss, same thing here. They did increase for Tiny. I think he does more damage with Toss when he levels up his ultimate, Crow. The Toss here also a slight adjustment similar to Avalanche. It's to help it scale with the current meta. And then True Grab, with Throw, I think you do extra damage when you have the Axe Shard, right? And then True Grab splash damage increased from 46 to 8100 to 55, 70, 85, 100. This is to help it lane it a little bit better and help to be able to do a bit more damage into the late game. Vengeful Spear, Aghanim Scepter, Lucian no longer has bonus movement speed. Understandable. The big question is really, does Vengeful Spirit still want to build Solar Crest with that mana cost increase? That's the big one I'm unsure about. Viper was also a big Solar Crest lover. Solar Crest now gone. I think he reverts back to his Hurricane Pike, BKB into Axe Shard. Poison attack, Axe Shard max stacks decreased from 8 to 7. Understandable. Level 10 talent, magic resist decreased from 5 to 4. Nothing to say there. Talent, poison attack, slow damage decreased from 25 to 20. Okay. Nothing to see here. Power shot, just a slight adjustment. And then Witch Doctor decreased 70, 105, 140 to 65, 135. Not a huge deal there. I think overall the basis of this game, of this patch, is really to understand the fact that Bloodstone, Eternal Shroud, in spell damage across the board has been slightly reduced to help kind of give people a fighting chance against those nuking heroes. And then Shiva's Guard also be a little less appealing across the board. I think the Vladimir's Disassemble has ramifications that are going to be overlooked. You could do now Vlad into, let's say, Greave late game, which would be kind of appealing, I think. Other than that, I would still spam... who would I still play? I would still play our Destroyer mid. I would still play the new Zeus mid. I would play the Lina Pause 1 mid. The Lina Pause 1 is quite popular. It's a physical build. All the builds are online already for you if you want to check it out. All the builds are have been updated. I would try out the new Broodmother. Going Bloodthorn might not be a thing, but it could be interesting. I think Juggernaut is actually back on the board. We'll see. And I think Gyro Pause 4 as a Magic Heroes is quite popular. Those are my recommendations. Hero builds should already be updated, as I talked about. The big changes for the hero builds update is Pudge Pause 3 I fixed. Bat Rider, I've moved him back to his normal style, which is a Pause 2 mid here with Boots Travel into Black King Bar. You guys can't really see anything here, can you? Clinks has been a little bit adjusted. He's a Pause 2 hero. If you didn't see my previous video, you can look at that, but now he's a Pause 2 hero. I just fixed him up a little bit. He's going to go Phylactery after Orchid. Darkseer, I threw in the Pipe of Insight as well as Veil of Discord, make his laning a little bit easier. Death Prophet has been adjusted without Solar Crest. Gyrocopter, same thing. What else? Lina Pause 1, I talked about it. I did adjust also her early game to make it a little bit easier the last hit for Lina Pause 1. Pudge is the new Pause 3. I would recommend trying out Pudge as a Pause 3 hero. Quite interesting. Sniper, I also changed it up back to Mask of Madness into Crystallis with Akanda into the extension items as a consideration. Our Destroyer as well has been fixed up without Solar Crest. And lastly, the Zeus right-click build. You can see my previous VOD on Twitch. Something that's very interesting. That's all the changes for 7.35B. Just woke up. It's 10 a.m. Been up since 7:30, so I'm going to go have breakfast and lose some pubs. Good luck, guys.